masculinity. I've had a few goes at recording this already and I've fluffed around too much. I've been too cautious with my language, so let's just rapid fire it. I had notes here, but I'll just give it a crack. Masculinity is tricky to talk about because it's a vague concept and most definitions hurt our understanding more than help. They'll say things like, masculinity is the quality of being male-like. And it's like, okay, so what's being male-like? To my mind, male typical traits are ones that men have higher proclivity towards, so that when fully developed, men exceed women's capabilities, or that when left to their own devices, men display more than women. There's numerous examples of this in both directions. Pretty obvious ones, for example, are women tend towards groups that share, and men tend towards violence and forming hierarchies where there's leadership and there's subordinates. They're just simple examples. So when it comes to the topic of masculinity, in my mind, masculinity is the set of traits that are typically male and adaptive for that person's group. So it doesn't need to be a male's group or a female's group. It's just that masculinity are male traits that help the group overall. This is different to traits that help the individual. Individual and genetic selection are obviously important concepts in biology, and group selection is just an absolute footnote when it comes to how genes are propagated over time. And I'm not making any strong evolutionary claims here. I'm just talking about if the cultural concept of masculinity has been conserved over time, I believe it must be beneficial for the group, and that's why we've hung on to it. So there we go. Masculinity is the set of traits that are typically displayed by men and are good for the group. And I've only arrived at this conclusion as I've been thinking and learning about masculinity over the last few years, with that few being, who knows, like it's something I've always been interested in to some small extent, but it has grown and risen over time, especially as I turned 30-ish. I'm not saying anything magical happened when I turned 30, but I think I was becoming more open to certain concepts and thinking about my life and my role in society and who I was becoming. I was more open to those things, and then obviously certain environmental events activated certain interests within me and led to me exploring things like this. One of my goals is to become a really good man. And maybe that's obvious, but I'm not sure everyone thinks like this, or even all males think like this. Obviously, I don't expect all women to think like this. I'm aiming for that goal of becoming a really good man because I think it's all-encompassing. I think it involves becoming successful in certain disciplines. I think it entails mastery over your emotions. I think it requires you to have a level of skill when it comes to navigating women and the pleasure and pain they can cause you in your life. I think it involves transcending the individual and ensuring you benefit the group. You use any gain that you've acquired over the years to provide and protect. So with that target laid out of becoming a good man or a great man, how does that connect to masculinity? I think about the concept of yin-yang a lot, how often you see it across nature and culture and everywhere you look. And I think how this connects here is good men certainly do have feminine qualities, but it is a kernel within them, and it is wrapped with masculine qualities. I don't think it should be on the surface, and I don't think it should be developed to a greater extent than the masculine ones. If you're aiming to be a quote unquote good man. I understand this language is really difficult. It's not meant to be inflammatory or disrespectful in any way. I think you can be a very good person without being hyper masculine or even just like very masculine. But ultimately, I think if there's good qualities in masculinity and femininity, the best kind of people have maximized how many qualities they possess from both camps. And because I think men have higher proclivities for masculine qualities, they can develop them to a greater extent on average. And yes, they can certainly develop their feminine qualities, and they probably need to be more developed, much more than what they are now. The same is probably also true for their masculine qualities. So we just have way more self-development overall to do. The reason I think of great men being these masculine covered kernels of femininity is because I think that's what was required of tribal leaders or chiefs over time, at least the best ones. I think that's how they acted. A more commonplace example now for qualities like this, I think, is Jim Gordon in the Batman movies. He stays on the right side of the law much more on average than Batman does, and is a bit of a knight in his own regard. But he also has these really sensitive qualities as well. I spoke about the ability for violence, and Jim Gordon certainly has that. When Bruce Wayne's parents are killed and child Bruce is in the police station, it's Jim Gordon who emotionally attends to him. And while he plays a protector and provider kind of role there in a sense, he's more so playing comforter. And although there's a fine line between protector and comforter, I think that is a more feminine display of some of his qualities. And it's the ability for him to have that kernel wrapped in all the masculine qualities he has that make him a good or a great man. I'm going to leave it here for today. I'm going to revisit this topic many times and really try to better convey my understanding and some usefulness. We'll speak about some more practical things, how I've self-analyzed a bit and worked out where I was deficient, and even just speak about some books that I've found have helped my understanding and helped me advance as a man. But for now, as I said, we'll leave it at that. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.